What can I say about The Empire Strikes Back?
You have failed me for the last time.
The Empire Strikes Back is Star Wars Episode 5, and it is the sequel to A New Hope, and a lot of people consider it the best ever Star Wars movie. Now, I don't want my bias to get in the way of how I feel about this movie, so I wanted to be as fair and accurate to this movie as humanly possible and give it credit only where credit is due. I think I'm okay with how it does turn out. So let's get into it and find out how good or bad this movie actually is. First up, we have the people category that goes over the acting, characters, casting, importance, chemistry, and all of these get perfect points. The acting is definitely better than the first time around. Lots of acting that's going on that's really great there. The characters, of course, it's Star Wars. You never get bored of these characters. They are memorable characters. Casting, you can't really say you imagine anybody else in these roles, especially this movie. It's over 30 years old, almost 40 at this point. Importance, so many characters in this movie, and they all have unique importance to the movie, even though you don't really know what they are right off the bat. They do come around, and you do end up seeing how everybody's important to one another. And chemistry, absolutely. Everybody has really good chemistry. I mean, you got the chemistry with Luke and Yoda. His chemistry with Darth Vader. I will not spoil you, because guess what? People are still born into this world not knowing automatically what happens in Star Wars. People category gets 10 out of 10 possible stars. Next up, the writing category, that goes with their dialogue, balance of the story, story depth, originality, and how interesting it is. Dialogue is, once again, we have really memorable lines, especially one of the most memorable lines in cinema history alone. Balance of the story, I mean, start to wonder a little bit because Luke goes off this way, Han and the rest of them go this way, but they all end up in Cloud City. The depth of the story, of course, it has a little bit more when it comes down to the importance of what a Jedi is, how important it is to remember patience, and how easy it is to turn to the dark side if you're not careful. Original, definitely one of the most original Star Wars movies out there. Interesting, it's Star Wars, dang it, it's interesting. Writing gets full points, 10 out of 10 possible stars. Next up is the BTS category. This is going over the visuals, the directing, editing, advertisement, and the music and sound, all of which gets perfect points again. The visuals, interestingly enough, this is also part of the specialized editions that George Lucas came out with, but it's not as clear as A New Hope was, and A New Hope just seemed to be just things getting thrown at you from every which way. This one's a little bit, you can tell certain things here and there, like the actor's voice from the prequels who's playing the bounty hunter, but that's really about it. The directing, this is one of the best directed Star Wars movies to date. A lot of people forget the fact that this wasn't directed by George Lucas. The guy who actually directed it did a very good job at telling a story and making it feel complete, even though we know it's just a segue episode for what's going on in the finale. The editing, of course, is all wonderful when it comes down to just stitching all of this together. The advertisement, of course, this is as advertised, and the music and sound is, once again, amazing and hard to forget. 10 out of 10 possible stars for BTS. Next up is the narrative arc score. This goes over through the introduction, inciting incident, obstacles, climax, and falling action, all of which gets full points. The introduction gets you reacquainted with who Luke Skywalker is, and we're seeing that, yes, he is still around Han Solo, and they are still around Leia, which are the trio from the first film that are most important. So that's full points. The inciting incident is when Luke ultimately goes to the Dagobah system in order to become a Jedi Knight. The obstacles comes down to the visions that Luke is having, as well as what's going on in the Cloud City with Darth Vader and Han Solo and Chewbacca and Leia and blah. The climax is a huge culmination of everything else between. It's one of the most memorable climaxes. The falling action is a calming down and returning to a new norm, which does actually happen. Narrative arc gets full points, 10 out of 10 possible stars. Next up is the entertainment category. How entertaining is it? This goes over how rewatchable it is, how good of a time you have while watching, if you have any kind of impulse to buy it or own it, do you have any impulse to talk about it other than this review from me, and does it suck the audience in? Rewatchable, yes, this is a million times I've watched this. Fun experience, yes, this is one of the most beloved Star Wars movies, but also it's just Star Wars, so yes, it's gonna be fun. Impulse to buy it, yes, this is one of the movies that I would love to buy on its own individually. From any of the other movies, I would love to buy this one. Impulse to talk about other than this review, this is one of the biggest moments in film history that suck the audience in. I think so. Again, like most Star Wars movies, lots of things are happening all at once, and it's kind of hard not to say that it does indeed suck you in. So that gets full points. Entertainment score is 10 out of 10 possible stars. Specially score. First up, I want to know how this works as a Star Wars movie. Does this fit in as a Star Wars? Of course, 10 out of 10 possible stars. Next up, as a sequel, does it add anything new? Of course, it added Lando and Yoda, but also the biggest reveal in film history is something that was also added that changes things up. So, sequel, 10 out of 10 possible stars. As an action film, lots of action, just in general, lots of action, 10 out of 10 possible stars. Adventure, it is what I often like to see in Star Wars, a maximum of 3 planets and something going on in space. That is Star Wars to me. If it goes beyond that, it starts feeling a little convoluted. So on this one, you have Hoth, Dagobah, and the city in the clouds. So that's 10 out of 10 possible stars. Finally, was it halfway decent? Yes. I'm not going to go into too much detail there because I already did in the review. 10 out of 10 possible stars there. 100 out of 100 possible stars. 100% a perfect film. This is a pretty darn rare score for me, so I'm always glad to see it. Guys, tell me what you thought of The Empire Strikes Back in the comments down below. And for YouTube, you know you can subscribe to me, hit that like button, and hit that bell to be notified when I come out with my next review, which should be tomorrow. Peace out, guys.